Hello everybody and welcome back to Options Made Simple. We're moving into class number 6 and that means we're going to be talking about closing your trades. So here's our agenda for this lesson. We're going to talk about closing the option trade, various ways to close the trade, and then we're going to talk about setting stops and we'll wrap it up with some homework. So let's start talking about closing the trade. When we're looking at option trades, closing the trade is really as simple as taking the opposite of whatever we did to get into the trade. So the easiest way to think about it is just doing that very thing I just said, the opposite of whatever you did to enter the trade. If you buy to open, you will sell to close, and if you sell to open, you're going to buy to close. Remember, we can get into option trades by buying to open, and if you do that, you're just going to sell to close to get out of the trade. You can also open a new option trade by selling to open, for example, with a covered call or a naked put. And if you want to close that trade out, we're simply going to do the opposite. We're going to buy to close. Think about it this way, we're just offsetting the positions. That's really the easiest way to think about it. And if you can understand that principle, then closing the option trade becomes really second nature to you. So here's what you need to think about. Every trade needs an offset. And if you offset more than you initially got into, then you'll just end up with a deficit in the other direction. So look at some kind of principles here. Let's say your starting balance is 0 and you go out and buy 3 call options. Well, your new balance is you're going to have 3 calls. Well, if you go close the trade, to close the 3 calls that you bought, you need to sell the 3 calls. That's pretty basic common sense. You buy 3 calls, you go sell 3 calls, now you're back to an ending balance of 0. Okay, let's do another one here. Let's start with a short trade. Let's say that we open the trade up with 0. That's our starting balance. We open the trade up by selling 3 call options. Now your new balance is minus 3 calls. Now why does it say minus 3? Because you're in a short position. You sold those calls. You have an obligation that's tied to it. Now understand, we'll talk more about this in Options Made Simple too, but understand whenever you sell an option, you're technically called short. You're in a short position, kind of like when you short a stock, but there's a difference. You don't owe the option like you do whenever you short a stock. When you short a stock, you owe the stock back. When you short an option, you just simply have an obligation that's tied to that because we sold the option. We sold the rights, so now we're obligated. So it's going to show up in your balance sheet as a negative because you're short those positions, but again, it's not the same as being short a stock. Similar, but a little bit different here. And so if we sell 3 call options to open the trade, our new balance is minus 3 calls. So to close the trade, how do we add 3 calls? Well, we just go buy 3 call options. So we go buy 3 call options, our new ending balance is 0. See, it's pretty straightforward. But now let's watch what we can do with some trading platforms. With some platforms, they don't make you do an even number. So you may start off with a balance of 0, and maybe you sell 3 put options. We would call that a naked put. So you go out and sell 3 put options. Now you got 3 minus 3 options, minus 3 puts in your account. If you want to offset that, we got to go buy some. But what if you go and you only buy 2? Well, if you only buy 2, what's our new balance? Our new balance is going to be minus 1 put. And so this is the way that this works. If you want to go ahead and offset the additional one, what do you have to do? You have to go buy 1 more to close the trade. So the principle here of offsetting or closing out your option trade is simply doing the opposite of what we did to get into the trade. Let's do one more example here. Let's say we start the trade by buying 3 put options. And so now our new balance is we've got 3 puts, but what if we came behind it to close it and the transaction we did was sell 4 puts? Well, if we sell 4 puts, 3 of them close out the initial 3 that we had, and then the new one is going to give us a net deficit, so we're minus 1 put. Does that make sense? And so again, the principle here is just do the opposite of what we did to get into the trade. You want to balance that out. If you buy 1 to open, you need to sell 1. If you sell 1 to open, you need to go buy 1. And if you sell an odd number from what you purchased, then the deficit or the remainder, however you do the math there, is going to show up in your account as part of the balance.